I never said it out loud. Never had to. The ones who say it out loud usually aren't. 1994, I walked into a meeting. I wasn't supposed to run that meeting. Sal Greco was supposed to run it. Sal was late. I sat down, looked around the table, 7 men said, let's not wait. Nobody argued. We finished in 40 minutes. Sal showed up when we were putting on our coats. Asked what happened. Someone said, we handled it. Sal looked at me, I looked back. That was the last meeting Sal ran. Nobody planned it that way, it just settled. Like water finding its level, that's how it always happens. Nobody votes, nobody announces. The room just decides. I didn't take anything from Sal. He just stopped being the one the room faced. You can't take that. It either happens or it doesn't. Nobody had to tell them which chair was mine, which calls got answered first, which problems crossed the line to my desk and nobody else's. Nobody had to tell them, they just knew the way a room knows before the door opens. That's the only title that ever meant anything. 2001, new guy came up from Philadelphia, connected sharp, thought he understood how things worked here. He didn't understand how things worked here. First week he introduced himself to everyone, shook every hand, remembered every name, good with people, I'll give him that. Second week he started talking in meetings before the room indicated it was his turn to talk. Third week he suggested something that contradicted a decision I'd made 6 months prior. Not wrong, actually not a bad idea, but he said it like he was proposing, not like he was asking. I let it sit for 4 seconds, then I said, we looked at that already, moved on. He got it, took him 3 weeks but he got it. After that he was one of the better ones, because he learned the difference between knowing your value and knowing the room. Nobody had to tell them, nobody had to tell them which chair was mine, which chair was mine, which calls got answered first, which problems crossed the line to my desk and nobody else's. Nobody had to tell them, they just knew the way your room knows before the door opens. That's the only title that ever meant anything. People think it's about the fear. It's not about the fear. Fear makes men obedient. Obedient men make mistakes when you're not watching. What I built was different. I built men who made the right call when I wasn't in the room. That's the actual job. Anyone can get compliance in the room. The question is what happens when we're not there. My father told me once, the measure of a man who runs something is what runs when he doesn't. I spent 30 years building something that runs without me having to be in it. That's harder than anything else I ever did. Last April, I stepped back from the day-to-day, not retired, just stepped back. My nephew Dominic runs the table now. Good kid, better than I was at his age, more patient, meets people faster. I sat in on a meeting 2 months ago just to watch. Sat in the corner, said nothing, watched Dominic handle a situation that would have taken me an hour. He handled it in 12 minutes, and the room moved on like it was nothing. I drove home after, thought good, that's the right feeling. Not jealousy, not nostalgia, just good. And that's what it's supposed to look like when you build it right. Nobody had to tell them, nobody had to tell them which chair was mine. 30 years, same chair, same table, same line. Now Dominic sits there. Nobody had to tell them. They just knew the way a room knows when something transferred That's the only legacy that ever meant anything. Sal Greco was late. I sat down, said let's not wait. Nobody argued. That was 94. Dominic handled it in 12 minutes. I drove home, thought, good. That's the whole story. 30 years, one word at the end. Good. Good.